A tense situation unfolds as Israel receives the remains of two individuals, with Hamas claiming they were hostages. This development has sparked controversy and raised questions about the implementation of the recent ceasefire agreement. The hostage crisis. In a statement, the Israeli Prime Minister's office confirmed the receipt of two bodies from Gaza, which Hamas had identified as hostages. The remains were transferred to Israeli forces via the Red Cross and will undergo formal identification. Hamas had earlier announced the recovery of these bodies in Palestinian territory on Saturday. The delay in returning all hostages, both living and deceased, has caused an uproar in Israel. The terms of the ceasefire deal, as stipulated last week, demanded the release of all hostages from Gaza. Hamas, however, has faced challenges in locating the remaining bodies, citing the extensive rubble left behind by Israeli airstrikes, border closure and ceasefire conditions. In response, the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt to remain closed until further notice. The reopening of this vital crossing, which facilitates medical evacuations and the return of thousands of Palestinians, will depend on the return of the final hostage remains and the full implementation of the ceasefire agreement. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, have emphasized that Hamas must uphold the agreement and take the necessary steps to return all the hostages. Controversial perspectives, but here's where it gets controversial. The U.S. has downplayed suggestions that the delay constitutes a breach of the ceasefire deal. President Donald Trump, during his visit to Israel and Egypt last week, claimed this deal as a significant victory. The text of the agreement, though not publicly released, seems to account for the possibility of some bodies being inaccessible immediately, according to a leaked version seen in Israeli media. Hamas, on the other hand, blames Israel for making the recovery process difficult. The extensive destruction caused by airstrikes has left many buildings in rubble, and Israel's restriction on heavy machinery and diggers entering Gaza further complicates the situation. Humanitarian crisis in Gaza. UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher described the Gaza Strip as a wasteland, with people desperately searching through the rubble for bodies and trying to locate their homes, many of which have been reduced to flattened ruins. As part of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal, Hamas returned all 20 living hostages to Israel, and the IDF confirmed the identity of the 10th deceased hostage, Eliyahu Margalit, on Friday. As part of the agreement, Israel also freed 250 Palestinian prisoners and 1,718 detainees from Gaza. However, a separate incident on Saturday cast a shadow over the ceasefire, as 11 members of one Palestinian family were killed by an Israeli tank shell, according to the Hamas-run Civil Defense Ministry. This incident, the deadliest involving Israeli soldiers since the ceasefire began, has raised questions about the ongoing violence. The Israeli military's campaign in Gaza was launched in response to the October 7, 2023 attack, in which Hamas-led gunmen killed approximately 1,200 people in southern Israel and took 251 hostages. Since then, at least 68,000 people have been killed by Israeli attacks in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, whose figures are considered reliable by the UN. In September, a UN commission of inquiry accused Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Israel vehemently rejected this report as distorted and false. This complex situation, with its humanitarian crisis and conflicting narratives, leaves many questions unanswered. What are your thoughts on this ongoing crisis? Do you think the ceasefire agreement is being upheld, or are there breaches that need to be addressed? Feel free to share your insights and engage in a respectful discussion in the comments.